Well, today we celebrate all women here in Canada and around the world, and we celebrate our diversity, our dreams, and our hopes for a better world, a world of freedom and possibility and equality. And today we celebrate you, women and men who are working together to ensure that all people have equal opportunities to thrive and succeed. And today on See Here Love, we highlight women who are leading organizations that are making a difference in the lives of the most vulnerable and those that are seeking hope. That's all coming up next on See Here Love.
You are seen, you are heard, you are loved by God. You're not alone, you're fully known, you are loved by God.
Well, welcome to See Here Love. I'm your host, Melinda. I'm so glad you're here as we celebrate International Women's Day and women all over the world. And what better women to have on the show than these amazing women who are leaders, CEOs, and those in executive positions. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, well, I'm going to start with some introductions because pretty impressive. Kim Fletcher, you're the Vice President of Marketing with a focus of philanthropy and customer service, but you've really gone from corporate to the not-for-profit sector, and you were at KPMG, Microsoft, and Procter & Gamble for years as in high-level leadership.
I was in marketing and just felt God calling me into the not-for-profit sector just recently.
Wow, welcome. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and you're with World Vision, one of the largest non-government organizations in the world.
We are, and we're in countries all over the globe, helping vulnerable children in very difficult and dangerous places.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Welcome. And Lorna Duick, a friend and mentor. Welcome. You're the CEO of Crossroads Christian Communications and YesTV. You're the first woman CEO.
At this organization.
Yes, at this organization.
That's right.
So
It's been a 40-year organization. The YesTV is 20 years old, and it's been a delight to lead this organization.
And you've also been the executive producer and host for 20 seasons of Context with Lorna Duick TV show and online production.
News and current events, looking through a biblical lens to see how might God and the world work better together.
Beautiful. Love it. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And to my left, Christine McMillan, former president of the Salvation Army Canada, Bermuda, and Papua New Guinea. Amazing. And now you're an invited member of the United Nations Multi-Faith Advisory Council and an advisor of social justice and the chair of Global Human Trafficking Task Force for the World Evangelical Alliance.
Oh, wow.
You do have some leadership behind you. Don't you?
Well, you know, all those things just fit nicely together.
Yes, they do.
So you learn from each step and each environmental site where issues are, and you make the table wider.
It's fantastic. Glad you're here, Christine.
Thank
Thank
you.
And Cheryl Nembhard, co-host, friend, president of Exousia Media, award-winning filmmaker, playwright, author, and social justice advocate.
And completely overwhelmed by being in the midst of these ladies. So just Cheryl.
Yeah, Cheryl. Well, we'll be on a first-name basis for everybody today. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate women this week into the lead-up of International Women's Day this coming Sunday. And I want to jump right into our news and views because I think this will really relate to you, and I'm excited and interested to hear your thoughts. So International Women's Day this year the theme is Each for Equal. And it's this idea of individually we make choices and responsibilities, but collectively our voices can be louder and heard as we look towards having equality in the workplace, in the boardroom, in politics, in government, in media. And so that whole theme is this Each for Equal, which is, they're doing this all over the world, this symbol to show equality in these places. And I know that you'll have a lot to say about that. In that, this is the news and views. In 2019, the Reykjavik Index for Leadership did a survey which measures how people feel about women in leadership. This is what they said about Canadians. 43% of Canadian men would not feel comfortable with women in a position as a CEO of a major company. Okay, think about that. And 1/3 of Canadian women, 33%, don't feel comfortable with a woman CEO.
Well, my thought is, I don't think that could be right. I would look at the data. Like, it's really shocking.
Really? You think
yeah,
that's...
I do think that's shocking. You see such, like, at least the impression I have as a CEO and watching the world is that you can still do this. Like, this is shouldn't be objectionable. But then you know, there are more CEOs named John in North America than there are women. All told.
Really,
So,
eh?
yeah. So they're definitely a minority,
Yeah.
a very tiny minority.
I think, well, I'd like to get, Kim, go ahead, because I have some thoughts here. What do you think about that?
I think times are changing. I think inclusion and diversity is becoming a common conversation point in corporate Canada and not-for-profits. And I think as we continue to transition that way, those views, I find them shocking as well, are changing. It's not something that I experience. I've found that people have been very gracious in their mentorship and encouraging women. I think we're measuring more what matters in these areas, and I think as we look at that data, we can put in roadmaps to avoid any gaps and put in some training and some development programs where there may not be enough women in those areas.
Yeah, that's good. Christine?
I would get behind those statistics. Why are people saying that?
Yeah.
My experience has been in the Salvation Army as equivalent of CEO is that it's one less job for the boys. And so as we begin to take over in people's minds, we're effective, we have a different leadership style, that can be threatening to some. And the women, the 33% who don't want it either, have a certain relational way in which they maybe don't have best friends as girlfriends. And maybe they see them only in one light. And so all that says to me is we've got some growing to do and some influence to bring.
Yeah, that's good. Good thoughts,
I
Cheryl?
love what Catherine Booth did as the
Salvation Army.
Army forerunner for women in the globe. I mean, her leadership is just stellar.
But you know what the founder of the Salvation Army said? My best men are women. That's
Love
Yeah,
her.
I like that.
Love her. I just think I'm stuck on the 30% of women feel uncomfortable. It strikes a chord for me, and I feel like, you know, we are still trying to understand and believe that we can, and that we can be in these spaces and carve out a path for ourselves. And I find it interesting that the women that are brave and bold and are pushing against breaking that glass ceiling are feeling sort of resisted by men, but now unsupported by their own women. So they're really just out there on their own, sort of carving this path.
Yeah.
And so we need to rally behind those people.
Well, that's why you're here.
That's right.
That is why I have you here, because we need to be a voice for the next generation.
Yeah.
I talked to my husband, Chris, about this stat. As a man who is under the leadership of a CEO as a woman, he said, I think the next generation, the stats will be lower. I think younger people will be more open and encouraged to be led by women. So I am encouraged by that. Thanks for your thoughts. We're going to get into more of that because there's a lot to discuss. Well, in light of the Each for Equal for International Women's Day, we went across Canada and interviewed women in CEO and executive level positions and asked them what they are doing to ensure equality in their workplace. Let's take a look.
So first, let me clarify that World Renew and my leadership role in it tries to foster gender justice because it goes beyond gender equality. And gender justice actually involves removing the barriers that cause inequality in the first place. So that means that we do training programs, we do policies, we look at our systems, recruitment systems especially, to try to encourage everybody having an opportunity to apply and also look at getting a job. And then also we look at evaluating the work that we do by doing a gender audit, as we are doing right now. And that will help us identify ways that we can improve and grow in our work. And most of all, we want to make sure that everybody flourishes as God intends, because He calls us to live as men and women as equal, valued image bearers.
Hi, I'm Anu George Kanjanathopul, the Executive Director with International Justice Mission Canada. Today is International Women's Day. Every day should be. And gender equality is so crucial, be it at home or at your workplace. I enjoyed so much of that because majority of my senior leadership were women when I was leading my team back in India. Women could be awesome at their career and at motherhood because the office offered the opportunity of them having an in-house creche where they could leave their babies, and also flexible working hours so that they could be amazing at both.
I think that the most important thing that I can do to create a gender equal workplace as a female executive is to make myself available and present and engaged with the women around me. I think women need one of two things. They either need a mentor to help them in their journey and acquire the skills and the confidence, or they need a champion. They have everything that they need and they just need someone to support. So being available, investing the time, I think is the most important thing that I can do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ida, Sue, and Anu for your thoughts. Well, let's just jump into the same question that I asked them. What would you say, or how are you ensuring equality in your organization or even sphere of influence? What are you doing today?
In our organization, we had to actually open up the books. We had to sit down with our financial officer and say, let's look and see if gender equity is happening on wages, on hiring, all of that. And so it didn't change overnight, though. So we're a large workforce of about 150 people. And so we spent the first 15 months just making sure we kept renewing and strengthening those things. So it was a very, it affected the bottom line. So you have to actually prove it. Like monetarily, did you work to get gender parity?
Yeah,
So
that's fantastic.
It will almost cost you something.
It did.
To make that, to be intentional.
It did.
Worth the cost, Lorna? Was it worth the cost?
Oh yeah, and I think some of it was because we had some historic people who came on as volunteers and then, oh, maybe pay me a little bit, you know, and it was women who loved, especially the ministry of doing the helpline, our prayer line. And as you realize, you know what, actually, they've been here a long time and we need to make this right. There needs to be pay equity.
That's good. So you actually open the books and do that work, and there could be a cost. Kim, what would you say?
I think the other thing is to have training and conversations around unconscious bias. Look at your hiring practices, look at your promoting practices, look at your leadership team and your board, and put out grids to say, you know, are we hitting our diversity targets? Are we hitting our gender targets, our community targets that we're looking for? And then putting these plans in place for training and for development so that you can fill those gaps. It's really important.
Yeah. That's good, and that's the work that World Vision is doing, the hard work of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Christine.
I find myself looking at a workplace called the world.
Yeah.
And you've got wonderful mugs here that say, see, hear, and love. Most women in our world will not even see a clip of International Women's Day. They will not hear of it. And so they are having even their own decisions made by men in their lives who are trying to influence them. So we need to work in tension with some of that, but also contextually with different nations and raise people up to be an influence. Some of my work in Bangladesh with the Salvation Army saw women coming in off the street, getting into making products, and the society said they're not just prostitutes who have made themselves a new life, they're women. And maybe there's some possibilities there.
So we see them. We see the possibilities.
We see it.
Yeah, that's good.
For me personally, what I always do, and I encourage people that are in leadership, is to carve intentional space at the table, make space for the next generation coming
Right,
up.
yeah.
Because it is so hard, and they are unsupported, and they are feeling in their mind that they can't. And so I feel like it's incumbent on us to sort of say, come on, while I'm here, I've got my foot in the door, let me bring you through.
Fantastic. What would you say is the most difficult part of being a leader? You're all in those high levels.
Time
you have
management.
influence. Time management. Yes, 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 and yes. Time management, why? But Lorna, why? Because we're so busy with like everything, or we can't say no, or what? Why would you say that?
It is hard to put your own well-being needs in part of the package, and there just is. If you're going to step into a leadership role, you got to step up to the plate, and you have to be available. You have to be observant. You have to be learning. You have to be able to be quiet enough that you can cast vision, and then you just have to do the work. You have to catch the details, and you have to be ready for emergencies. You have to be able to pivot and lead, and it's just
Time management.
it's a lot of balls being juggled.
Yeah, I get that. So time management, one of the hardest things. Kim, what about you?
Competing priorities.
Oh, competing priorities.
Whether it's at home, work, or in your community, in your volunteerism, there's always something that needs to be taken care of, someone who needs a question answered or something that arises that you didn't expect. And I think you have to be agile enough to pivot, to figure out what needs to get done when, and then bring other people in and lean on them to help you through those times of priorities and making choices.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. All right.
I would say knowing that you cannot please everyone, and you
Christine.
shouldn't try to please everyone.
Speaking my language, that's that
And
is
leading
tough.
by the inner conviction of what is right and what God wants.
That's good. I'm like, yes,
so
yes,
good.
yes, and yes.
It's
literally-
good.
Why do we lead?
I just want to say ditto what Christine said.
yeah.
I just feel like I am enough, and I feel like that, so that brings in this whole idea of balance. That's my thing. And so I work, push. It's never good enough. I'm not, sort of taking that time to say I don't need to please anyone here. And so constantly driving too hard, I think that's a lot of what female execs do. They drive too hard.
I would agree with all of you. I think that's the part of being a leader, and sometimes I wonder why I'm a leader, but in this last question, what is the joy that it brings to lead your organization and your people? Because I think in the flip side of how difficult it can be, there is a joy in leading. What would you say is the greatest joy in leading?
I think it's just the sense of being where God wants you to be. You're there because you feel God's given you talents and you are able to use them. It's beautiful.
Nice and simple, but so true. Ilona, that's good. Yeah.
I think it's having those moments where you can pray with someone during a time of difficulty. It's also watching people that you've hired and see them grow and develop and then become leaders themselves. And when you step out of our career, it's going to be wonderful to have those people lead the next generation for us.
Yeah. So that mentoring, legacy, seeing the next generation. Yeah.
And I enjoy the creativity in leadership. Is permission to fail, to move ahead in ways that you can be the salt and the light of the most effective way. So it's not only growing your leadership, it's reading the world in which you're sprinkling that salt and sharing the light.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then quickly, Cheryl, last one.
Yeah, my my world and I love what you said. My office looks like a lot of youth all the time, and so my leadership joy is mentoring, and I think this is a place that we need to kind of lean in harder. The opportunity to pour in, to mold, to shape, and find the ministry in the business.
Yeah.
Finding the ministry moments in the business.
Yeah. I'd agree with all of you. I think the joy is seeing when you bring a young person in to see them. And I will say this, it's really interesting because Lorna brought me in as a young woman, and then to see me grow and develop and be where I'm at is such a beautiful legacy.
You opened the door for me over here.
And then we've Chris opened the door for Lorna.
Tell that story if we have time.
Okay, we will. It's all the love here of women looking at women, bringing them in, and seeing them flourish. So that's great. Thank you so much. Great thoughts. Well, when we come back, we look at Jesus, the champion of women, and how his life, his leadership style, and his love for women has changed us and our leadership style today. That's coming up. Start your week off with me in your inbox. Sign up for our weekly newsletter today for exclusive content of See Hear Love, blogs, behind-the-scenes footage, and access to giveaways you'll love. Sign up today and let's start our week together. Hi, I'm Melinda, host and executive producer of See Hear Love, and I hope you are enjoying our conversation today. Well, you may not realize that See Hear Love is made possible by the support of viewers and listeners like you. So would you please consider becoming a monthly donor? Any gift goes a long way in helping us build a community of women and men who talk about real issues and struggles as we navigate our faith together. Well, please go to seehearlove.com now and click on the big purple donate button. Thanks so much. Well, we're back, and as we look at Jesus, champion of women, I want to hear how his character, his life, leadership, and actions has influenced your life and leadership style, because I'm always focused on how Jesus informs our life and what he does for our life. So what would you say? Lorna, what would you say? How has Jesus made an impact in your leadership?
Oh, I think the fact that Jesus was, prophesied over by women. He was born of a woman. And then history actually turned a page, and women start to become center stage along with Jesus' proclamation of good news. Yeah. And so that gives you confidence that right from the heart of Christ, your voice is part of God's intentions for the world.
Oh, that's empowering. I think anybody who's like, how does Jesus make an impact? That is so empowering, seeing that within the scriptures. Yeah, that's
they're
great.
right there.
Yeah.
I think for me, walking with God allows me to see those moments when he's working. You told the story about how someone spoke into your life and gave you an opportunity. I really try and listen for God's prompting in those areas to say, speak to this person or take on this initiative. And I think that that's really what calls us as leaders to make that difference.
Listening to God, speaking, and then stepping out and being that sort of light and love.
And being open.
And open.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Cheryl, what about you? Impact of Jesus in your life and leadership?
He's the ultimate social justice advocate, and I pull everything from him, every page. And, he was a defender of women. I think of the woman of adultery and just sort of stepping in there. I think about the woman in Samaria and how he intentionally sent his boys off to get lunch, knowing that their bias and all their sort of misogyny would get in the way. And he wanted to have this sort of historical, life-changing, still to this day, moment in time for us. And so he just always is championing us. So it changes everything for me. So now I stand up for women, we fight for women, we speak for women, because that's what he did.
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah. Way to go, Jesus.
Way to go.
Yes, that's what we like to say. Way to go, Jesus. Christine.
The UN has a slogan they're using, leave no one behind.
Beautiful.
And as I think about that reference to the woman caught in an act of adultery, what I love about Jesus is she's center stage, but for all the wrong reasons. And Jesus takes that moment with mercy and says simply, who is without sin? Let them cast the first stone. I want my leadership to hear stones dropping.
Wow.
In my own life, I want to be conscious of my own need to drop the stones of my own sin. But I want to encourage a community and embrace people with that possibility. That's the gospel. It's good news.
It is good news. I think for me, I look at Jesus and I just love how human he is. He went for naps. He hung out and partied. He didn't need a quiet time. He didn't need to heal everybody. He wasn't a people pleaser. It's like Jesus healed more people, and he's like, no, you know what? We're good. I'm gonna go on to the next city. You know what I mean? Like when I humanize Jesus and I look at his life, so much of his rhythm is good. And it's the saying no, it's the saying yes, it's the defender, it's the social justice advocate. It was the teacher, it was the prophet. Everything about him is just like, wow. But in it all, I just love the humility and his purposefulness of his life, knowing what he needed to do, doing it, and then just changing the course of history forever.
Wow.
Like, whoa. So that's why when people say, why do you follow him? I walk it through and say, look at this life and see.
And the indwelling presence, and he
Yes.
gives us the Holy Spirit as a comforter, and we're not on this solo.
No, and that's what I love too. It's that sense of, and he's left us with his spirit to guide and direct us each day.
And not only did he restore dignity, but he gave new identity. And so there's so many women in the Bible that don't even have a name.
Yeah.
The woman with the issue of blood, the adulterous woman, the woman at the well, no name. And so Jesus not only comes to restore and to renew, but to find new identity in him. And so it's just an amazing thing. We have a name, and we've been named by him,
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Well, we go now to co-host and Bible teacher Joanna LaFleur as we talked about the good news and gospel. Joanna's going to share the good news of being strong and courageous as you lead in your organizations or in your sphere of influence. So be strong and courageous because God is with you.
Amen.
I love the story of Joshua in the Bible. He's a character I really relate to. He was the assistant to Moses for most of his life. And so as the people were wandering in the desert waiting to get to the promised land, he assisted Moses, who was the leader, the let my people go leader who brought them out of Egypt. And so for many, many years, until Joshua was an older man himself, he was an assistant. But when Moses died, Joshua became in charge. And it says in the first verses of Joshua 1, chapter 9, God is speaking to Joshua when he gets the job of being in charge. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. In my life, I've had a lot of times of being afraid as a leader. If you're a leader or you've ever even had to just stand in front of people and do a presentation, maybe you can relate to that. I, for a long time, used to throw up every time before I had to speak in front of people. I thankfully don't do that anymore because I'm speaking a lot more, and God has shown me how to be courageous. And just like Joshua, for a lot of years, you might be waiting in the wings, waiting for your turn to get leadership. But the truth is, when you become the person up front or the person who has to make the decisions or the person who everyone's listening to, sometimes it can be terrifying. But the promise we see in Joshua 1 is not about Joshua, it's about God. It's that God will be with you wherever you go. That is actually the reason we can have courage. And same for me, when I began recognizing when I would go out to speak that it was actually God who was with me, that he was the one who was faithful and never letting me fall in front of people, I actually began to have more and more courage to do the thing. So for a lot of years, you get prepared. A lot of years, you might be following along as the assistant, the second chair to the person who's leading. But when it becomes your turn to lead, who are you going to put your trust in? Are you going to put your trust in yourself? Or are you going to put your trust in the God who can actually do the thing he said he would do in your life? That you would be strong and courageous, not in your own ability, not in any hope that you can say anything competent or lead people well out of your own wisdom and strength, but out of the strength of God, the character of him, and who he is to you, you can lead and do what he's asked you to. Whatever that may be, whether big or strong, God will be faithful to you as you look to him and you put your trust in him. He will never let you down.
Thank you, Joanna, for that reminder. He will never let you down. So continue to be strong and courageous as you lead. Well, for takeaways, last takeaways, what would you say to encourage the next generation of young women who are preparing themselves or are stepping into leadership? What would you say to them on how to become a good leader, a strong leader?
Got to be open to help.
Okay.
Chris mentored me when I was younger. And you just have to be open to help. I am still high maintenance, but I've had mentors from many different areas of my life.
So be open to help and look for a mentor to help you in the journey.
Just ask.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Okay, yeah.
The Bible says, put your light on a stand. As a leader, a young or older leader, you don't know what that stand is ever going to look like. For me, a few years ago, it was cancer. And my light had to shine in chemo units, in radiation treatments, in hospitals. But the light still shone. You cannot choose the stand. But the light is so powerful, it goes wherever God would have you be.
That's powerful. Such great advice. Thank you, Christine.
James 4:8 says, draw near to God, and God will draw near to you. And I think wherever you're at, God is giving you experiences that's building you a foundation for something that he has planned for you. And he will open doors, and you just need to walk through them and see him in those moments.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Kim.
I would just tell a young person to trust the gifts, trust the things that God has given you. Don't second guess, lean into God, and know that if he's called you to it, it's going to rhyme, warning, but he'll see you through it.
Right.
He really will, yeah.
All right, so God will see us through it. Be a light on the stand, draw near to him, be open. And I would say, when you're afraid of the imposter syndrome, if you can't do it, God's Spirit indwells in you to give you the power and the courage and the confidence to do it. So if you, first of all, before I get into that, I just want to say thank you so much, you incredible, strong leaders, as we celebrate International Women's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mel.
Thank
You're
you
doing a wonderful thing
so
for
much.
women.
Oh, thank you.
You are on a good lamp on
Way
the
to go,
stand.
boss.
Okay. Well, thank you for being great leaders and mentors and influencers in Canada and around the world. So I honor you and celebrate you this week. And to you, our viewers, if you want more information, resources, blogs on how to be a woman in leadership, go to seehearlove.com. And for more content, after the show thoughts, my backstory, and bloopers and behind the scenes, go to our YouTube channel, See Hear Love, and subscribe. And as you lead, Be strong and courageous because God is with you, and know that you are always seen, heard, and deeply loved by God. Bye-bye. Deeks Insurance is a proud sponsor of the See Hear Love Studio.